For years, Kevin Costner's private life has been as captivating as the roles he's played on screen, from heroic cowboys to devoted fathers. But behind the camera, his real-life story has been marked by love, heartbreak, and silence. After months of speculation and public curiosity, his ex-wife, the woman who once shared his world, his home, and his dreams, is finally breaking her silence. And what she's revealing about their marriage, their split, and the truth behind Costner's guarded heart is something few ever expected. Christine Baumgartner and Kevin Costner's love story began like a Hollywood dream. Elegant, romantic, and seemingly unshakable. For nearly 2 decades, they appeared to be the perfect pair, raising their children away from the spotlight and living a quiet life in luxury. But behind the picture-perfect image was a growing tension that neither fame nor fortune could fix. When their marriage suddenly fell apart, the world was left wondering what really happened between one of Hollywood's most beloved actors and the woman who once stood by his side. For months, Christine remained silent, letting rumors swirl about money, lifestyle, and the true reason she walked away. Now, with time and reflection, she's speaking out not to accuse, but to tell her side, a side that reveals the pressures of living with fame, the loneliness of loving a man devoted to his career, and the truth about what it really means to let go of a love that once defined your life. When Kevin Costner met Christine Baumgartner in the late 1990s, few could have imagined the love story that was about to unfold. Kevin was already one of Hollywood's biggest stars, an Oscar-winning actor and director known for Dances with Wolves, The Bodyguard, and Field of Dreams. Christine, a model and handbag designer, was younger, graceful, and refreshingly private. Their connection was immediate, but their relationship wasn't without hesitation. Costner, still healing from his first marriage and wary of falling too deeply again, wasn't sure if he was ready to open his heart, but Christine saw something in him that others didn't. She saw the quiet, introspective man behind the fame, the father, the dreamer, the storyteller. Their romance grew slowly, built on trust rather than headlines. In 2004, after several years together, the couple married in an intimate ceremony at Costner's sprawling Colorado ranch. The setting, wide-open skies, mountain air, and rustic charm, perfectly mirrored their shared desire for a grounded, family-centered life. For years, they seemed to have found the balance few Hollywood couples ever achieve. Away from the chaos of Los Angeles, they raised 3 beautiful children and enjoyed a peaceful domestic life. Kevin often spoke about how Christine brought stability and peace into his life. "She makes me want to be a better man," he once said in an interview. A rare glimpse of vulnerability from a man who had built his career on stoic, heroic characters. But even the most perfect love stories have their silent struggles. While Kevin continued to take on demanding roles and long filming schedules, Christine managed the home front, often alone. The distance, both emotional and physical, began to grow. As Costner's career entered a new era with projects like Yellowstone, his fame once again soared, but so did the strain on their marriage. Friends close to the couple noticed the subtle changes. Christine, once patient and understanding, began to feel the weight of loneliness. Kevin's commitment to his work, his endless drive for perfection, that once inspired her now became a source of tension. She had always known he belonged to the world, but she had hoped somehow that home would always come first. Despite the growing cracks, Christine remained by his side for nearly 2 decades. To the public, they were still the picture of stability, red carpet smiles, loving family photos, and quiet vacations. But behind those moments was a woman struggling to keep a marriage alive in the shadow of a man whose career consumed him. Their story wasn't about betrayal or scandal. It was about 2 people who simply grew apart. Christine loved Kevin deeply, but she also wanted more than just the fragments of a life shared with a man always on the move. And as whispers began to surface about their troubles, the world waited for answers. What had really gone wrong between Hollywood's golden couple? By the time Kevin Costner's career reignited with the runaway success of Yellowstone, his life at home was far from the peaceful haven it once was. The role that brought him back into the spotlight, the rugged, uncompromising rancher John Dutton, seemed to mirror parts of his real life. Kevin had always been devoted to his work, but this time the long filming schedules, remote shoots in Montana, and constant media attention began to create an unspoken distance between him and Christine. For years, she had been the anchor, the one who kept their family grounded while Kevin chased the next great story. But fame has a way of intruding even when it's uninvited. Christine started to feel like a supporting character in her own marriage, her quiet world overshadowed by his larger-than-life success. She loved him, but she longed for normalcy. Dinners at home, family time without cameras, and a husband who wasn't always away on location or consumed by scripts and contracts. At first, she tried to communicate her feelings, but Kevin's dedication to his craft often left little room for conversation. He wasn't cold or unkind, just preoccupied, lost in the endless cycle of creativity and responsibility that defined his career. "Kevin is married to his work," one close friend once remarked. "It's what drives him, but it's also what isolates him." As the months passed, the tension grew. There were disagreements, not explosive ones, but quiet, weary arguments about priorities, time, and the kind of life they both wanted. Christine, ever the private and composed figure, began to withdraw emotionally. She started focusing more on her own passions, her children, and her identity outside of being Kevin Costner's wife. When she finally filed for divorce in 2023, it shocked the public, but not those who knew them best. "It wasn't about one big thing," a family friend later said. "It was a slow unraveling. They just wanted different things from life," Christine cited irreconcilable differences, the phrase that so often hides years of quiet pain. The divorce quickly turned into one of the most talked about celebrity splits of the year, not because of infidelity or scandal, but because of what it revealed about fame and love. Court documents detailed disputes over finances and lifestyle. Christine's request for child support became a media headline, while Kevin's silence only deepened the mystery. But behind the numbers and gossip was a simple truth. Two people who had once been deeply in love had grown into different versions of themselves. Christine, who had spent years supporting Kevin's vision, now wanted her own space, her own freedom, and perhaps a chance to rediscover who she was before Hollywood defined her. While the public debated their wealth, Christine grieved something more personal, the end of the life she had helped build from the ground up. Her silence during the early days of the split wasn't coldness. It was heartbreak. She wasn't ready to speak because some stories take time to find words. And as Kevin returned to work, pouring his focus into directing and producing, Christine quietly began rebuilding her world, one without the spotlight, but filled with something she had long been missing: peace. Months after her split from Kevin Costner, Christine Baumgartner finally decided it was time to speak. For nearly 2 decades, she had stayed in the background, rarely giving interviews, rarely revealing much about her personal life. But when the media frenzy surrounding their divorce grew impossible to ignore, she realized that silence was allowing others to write her story for her. And so, after months of reflection, she broke her silence, not with anger or accusation, but with honesty in her quiet, composed way. Christine described what it was like to live in the shadow of one of Hollywood's most admired men. She spoke of love, admiration, and pride in what they built together, but also of the loneliness that came from being married to someone whose first love was always his work. "Kevin has a huge heart," she said, "but it belongs to the world. And sometimes, that's hard to compete with." Her words revealed a reality many had long suspected, but few had heard directly from her. Behind the red carpet smiles and glamorous photographs was a woman trying to hold together a life that was slowly drifting out of reach. She admitted that their separation wasn't sudden. It was years in the making, shaped by quiet distance, unspoken frustrations, and two people evolving in different directions. Christine also spoke about motherhood, how her 3 children were her strength during the difficult months that followed. She wanted them to see grace in endings, not bitterness. "I never wanted them to see anger between us," she explained. "I wanted them to see love, even if it had changed form." She refused to villainize Kevin. Instead, She described him as a man torn between family and ambition, between the simplicity of home and the vastness of his dreams. Her decision to leave, she said, wasn't about money or pride. It was about reclaiming herself. Sometimes, she admitted softly, love means knowing when to walk away. Her honesty resonated with many, especially women who had quietly sacrificed their own dreams for their partner's success. While the tabloids focused on court battles and property disputes, Christine's true message was about rediscovery. For the first time in years, she was learning who she was beyond being a wife, a mother, or a Hollywood spouse. Meanwhile, Kevin remained largely silent, responding only through legal representatives and rare public statements. Yet those who knew him said her words hit deeply. Despite the end of their marriage, he reportedly continued to care about Christine and wanted to ensure their children felt protected through it all. Christine's calm, measured revelations helped change the public narrative. She wasn't a woman chasing wealth or revenge. She was a woman seeking peace after years of emotional imbalance. Her story reminded people that even behind the world's most glamorous relationships, there can exist deep, invisible pain. And though she didn't reveal everything, her silence had finally transformed into something more powerful. Her truth. In the months following her heartfelt revelations, Christine Baumgartner began to rebuild her life, quietly, deliberately, and on her own terms. The woman who once stood in the background of Kevin Costner's fame had stepped forward, not into the spotlight, but into her own peace. Gone were the endless red carpets and Hollywood galas. In their place came slower mornings, meaningful time with her children, and a focus on rediscovering what made her truly happy. Friends close to Christine said she had finally exhaled after years of holding her breath. The whirlwind of legal proceedings and public speculation had taken their toll, but she was stronger now, calmer. "It's not about winning or losing," she reportedly said. "It's about healing." For the first time in decades, she wasn't defined by her marriage, her husband's career, or the media's narrative. She was defined by her choices. Christine began focusing on her design work again, returning to the creative roots that had once brought her joy. Her handbag line, which she had put on pause during her marriage, found new life. It wasn't about fame or fortune anymore. It was about purpose. Her children, now older, became her anchor. She often said that the love she poured into them gave her strength when everything else felt uncertain. Kevin, for his part, also seemed to find perspective in the aftermath. In interviews, he remained respectful, speaking of his devotion to his family and his desire to co-parent peacefully. "She's a wonderful mother," he acknowledged, showing that despite their differences, there was still mutual respect between them. Time had softened the tension. Both had come to understand that love can exist even in parting. It just takes a different form. Christine now lives a quieter life, choosing privacy over publicity. Those who've seen her say she looks lighter, not because life suddenly became easy, but because she stopped carrying the weight of trying to hold everything together. She learned that sometimes strength isn't in fighting for something to last, but in letting it go gracefully. When asked what she learned from her marriage and the painful ending that followed, Christine's answer was simple yet profound. "I learned that love changes, and that's okay. What matters is that it was real." Her words reflect a woman who has walked through heartbreak and emerged wiser, softer, and stronger. She doesn't speak with resentment. She speaks with understanding, for Kevin, for herself, and for the life they built together. Today, Christine Baumgartner's story isn't about being Kevin Costner's ex-wife. It's about being Christine, a woman who loved deeply, endured quietly, and finally chose herself. And perhaps that's the real ending, not one of loss, but of freedom.